First of all, please excuse the shitty mic quality. I'm currently on the road, so I have to use a crappy portable mic. We'll be back to our regular mic when I'm home next month. For now though, let's talk about Rage 2. I played Rage 2 at E3 2018 and it was without question the best thing I played at the show. Cyberpunk was the best thing I saw, but Rage 2 was the best thing I played, and I played pretty much everything at E3 2018. If you haven't been following Rage, here's the deal. The original Rage came out in October of 2011. It was developed by id Software, the makers of Doom and Quake and Wolfenstein. Now, the thing to understand about id at this time was that it was sort of in a bit of a crisis. Doom 3 was released in 2007 to sort of middling critical reception, a technological powerhouse, but more of a horror game than a traditional action-packed Doom game. Quake and Wolfenstein had little brand cachet at the time, and with id Stuff clearly ready to strike out into new waters, they announced that their new game would be a totally new IP built in an entirely new engine. That game was Rage. So Rage wasn't a fan favourite. Similar to Doom 3, Rage was a technical marvel, with the new id Tech 5 engine serving up the famous mega textures that Carmack was so passionate about. Good from far, but far from good was the reality of Rage, with its all-star voice cast, stunning vistas, and vast open world doing little to offset bad enemy design, repetitive encounters, and gunplay that just wasn't up to id standards. Fast forward to 2017 and Walmart, God bless them, they leak that there's a new Rage on the way. We don't know anything more about it until a few weeks later when a hype reel trailer drops and reveals a reimagined Rage 2, like someone took Mad Max and then poured a bucket of pink paint all over it.
Life is over now. Your life is running out. When your time is at an end, then it's time to kill again.
We also learned that Avalanche are co-developing it with id. You probably haven't heard of Avalanche, and that's probably because you haven't played any of the Just Cause games, and if that's true, then trust me when I say that you have been missing out. So here's what it means to have these two developers working together. Avalanche are some of the best open world developers in the industry. The physics engine powering Just Cause is without parallel. They're just insane. And on top of that, they've also developed Mad Max, a game that got a whole bunch of open world elements right, despite the overall package being pretty mixed depending on who you ask. Now id is, well, it's id. We're talking about the company that pretty much invented first-person shooters, who have for 40 years led the way in this industry. Even Rage and Doom 3, their like worst games in inverted commas, were still head and shoulders above 90% of the shooters that came out at around the same time. If you can take all of the open world expertise of Avalanche and combine it with the first-person shooter expertise of id, you're probably going to make a pretty damn good video game. So at E3 and again at QuakeCon last week, I played one half of this equation. I played the first-person shooter component. The demo I played through was a small segment clearing a building, so there was no open world elements at all. No vehicles, no anything really, just straight up shooting shit, and I have to say that this part of the game is feeling so good. There's three parts to Rage's combat. There's the guns, there's the abilities, and there's the utilities. Let's talk about the guns first. The demo I played had a pistol, no big deal. It had an assault rifle, which ticked all of the right boxes, that's fine. It was snappy, it was accurate, responsive, whatever. Now, the shotgun though, my god, the shotgun. Imagine carrying a cannon under your arm, one that fires actual cannonballs. That is the best description I can provide of what it feels like to fire this weapon. In addition to its booming sound, it will literally gut punch your enemies when you shoot them. They will fly across the room and splatter across the wall when you use this thing, and I honestly did not get tired of it. I've done that demo like 4 times now, and it always feels fantastic. It is the best shotgun I have ever used in a video game to date, and yes, I know how much of a big call that is, but just wait until you try this thing. It's amazing. On the ability side, think Destiny. You can sort of facepalm your enemies, which damages them and knocks them back. There's a more satisfying option though, which is to leap in the air and do a ground slam. The higher you jump from, the more damage you do, so you're kind of always looking for places to jump from, which is kind of fun. There's more abilities on the way later, but that's all I got to test for now. On the utility side, we're talking about your standard grenades, but you've also got something called a wing stick, which is basically just a boomerang that will track targets and mess them up when they happen to catch them. This does include tracking enemies around corners and locking onto multiple enemies at once, so there's a nice skill ceiling with the way this weapon works as well. On top of all of this, there's an overdrive mode you can activate when, you know, the meter charges and crazy screen goes red and pink and yelling and all that stuff. It's cheap thrills, I know that, but it's fun and it perfectly fits the motif. So, all of this combines to create a fairly slick package. As a shooter fan, I can immediately tell that id's fingerprints are all over this. It nails everything and it's just fun. Doom 2016 was a success because it stripped away all of the bullshit and it just let you enjoy the thrill of destroying everything you see. It's very much the same here. There's no soft cover, no peeking from behind doorways, it's just constant Boomtown. The big remaining question is the open world elements. We've seen from the trailers that there's some pretty big vehicular combat stuff on the way, and it definitely looks to scratch a lot of the Mad Max itch that I've been having ever since I saw Mad Max Fury Road. And yes, I saw the old Mad Maxes as well, but come on now, Fury Road, the convoy stuff, it was fucking crazy. Anyway, beyond that, I was really curious to see how this game was going to be structured. Was this a game that was looking to compete with Borderlands? Would there be co-op? Would there be a loot game, item upgrades, endgame raids? What was the deal? So I sat down with the creative director, his name was Magnus Nedfords, and here's what he had to say. Is this a single player game? And I will play through the whole thing, single player, and then at the end I'm done, I put it down, I'm like, hey, that was cool, and I walk away, and that's it. Like, what is this game structure?
The structure is, it's single player.
Right.
It is a open game world where you can go everywhere you want and just have a fun time.
Is there a loot game in this? Like, I got a shotgun, is that the only shotgun I'm gonna have, that's it? Or is it like, I get a blue shotgun, and then a purple shotgun, and then an orange shotgun?
Yeah,
like...
the blue, purple and orange comes more to different upgrades.
Okay.
So you have one shotgun, but then you find loot in different ways or resources, and then you can start to upgrade your gun. So it's not a loot game as others, like just popping out and you just, oh, that's 5% better here,
right,
or 3%
yeah,
better there.
Okay.
No, it's like it's more, this is your gun, upgraded the way you want it.
Got it. So I'm hearing like a single player game, there's an initial release, and then later on there'll be sort of acts, there'll be expansions to the story by some means. The focus of the end game, I'm guessing, then is really just about having fun and just enjoying the open world. It's not about like a big loot grind.
No loot grind.
And more and more of the open world becomes available with more of these acts.
Correct.
Now, to be clear, Rage 2 isn't Borderlands. It isn't trying to be Borderlands. It's a distinctly single-player experience with no endgame other than some weekend events. There's some DLC planned for the future, and that's what's going to expand the world further. There's no loot game, so you won't be searching for like a blue shotgun versus a purple shotgun. You won't be chasing incremental stat upgrades on your stuff, and there's also no co-op. Now, I know a lot of this is going to sound unappealing to people who really wanted this to be a Borderlands competitor, but to be honest, I'm really happy with these choices. There are so many live service games currently out or planned for next year. The idea of another one is like almost exhausting. If I get a good 30 to 40 hours out of this experience for $60, then I'm going to be damn happy with that. And it's also good to know that with no loot game or PvP or whatever, the game probably isn't going to be chasing long-term monetization through bullshit microtransactions. They're probably just going to make a good game, sell it for a good price, and then move on to the next game. And in 2018, I'm totally down for that. Anyway, that's Rage 2. There's a lot of stuff to look forward to next year, but for whatever reason, Rage 2 is actually pretty high on my list, along with Doom Eternal and The Division 2 and Code Vein and Sekiro and a whole bunch of others. Rage 2 is already nailing the first-person shooter side of its two-part offering. If it can land the open world elements as much as it's landing its shooting, then yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty fun game. Anyway, don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want, check out the Patreon if you want to show some more support. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.